Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our society unit for the month of October, and we're going to talk about lawns in today's program. You may not know what a lawn is. Most people, at least here in Taipei, live in apartments and they don't have lawns. You don't have to mow the lawn or pull out the weeds and stuff like that. Gardeners do that kind of stuff in your community, I suppose, if you have a garden or something like that. But a lawn, how would you describe a lawn?
A lawn is usually the grass, just, patches of grass in front of a home. We always call the lawn in the back of the house the backyard. But that would have a lawn too. You want lawns growing up, if you're an American living in the suburbs, for your kids to play on. We don't have parks as conveniently located as they do here in Taipei. So you'd want a lawn that your kids could go out and, kick around a soccer ball or toss a baseball back and forth, things like that. But you had to take care of the lawn. I was just laughing as you were talking about you don't really know what a lawn is. And I was thinking, yeah, they're lucky. We spent a lot of hours of our growing up years, Tom and I did, mowing the lawn, taking care of the lawn. It's a lot of work. It's beautiful. And I'm grateful that my parents cared enough to give me a lawn to grow up with, but still it's hard work.
It is indeed, but it's very common in the United States, I suppose, in Canada as well. If you have a home and you have a yard around your home, then you're probably going to have a lawn. And you can't let that grass grow too tall because you'll have weeds all over the place and the neighbors will complain. So you need to take care of your lawn, but your lawn is also a status symbol, which we'll talk about in today's program. So let's get to it. Let's talk about the culture of lawns. Let's read from the top now to the bottom.
Keep off the grass. Signs like this are often seen in places with meticulously manicured lawns. Take a moment to contemplate what this means, though. Expanses of green carpet that people can only stare at. Though not all lawns are off limits in this way, many homeowners do take pride in keeping theirs well maintained. But how did perfect lawns become such a staple of modern outdoor spaces? Lawns first became popular with the aristocracy of Europe in the Middle Ages. They were meant to imitate the romantic green fields and hills seen in paintings. However, maintaining lawns was much more time-intensive than it is now, and required special tools or grazing animals. The invention of lawn mowers and water management systems in the 19th century made lawn ownership more broadly accessible. As middle-class families spread out into suburbs, the lawn was emphasized as a place for children to play. Lawns have since proliferated around the world. Today, more space in the U.S. is dedicated to lawns than to crop farming. And lawns make up an estimated 23% of urban land on Earth. This culture of lawn ownership has created a number of social and environmental problems, though. For one thing, homeowners in well-to-do neighborhoods are often pressured by their communities, or even required by law to maintain a lawn, regardless of their wishes. If they don't, both their and the neighbor's property values may diminish. For another, lawn maintenance makes enormous demands on water resources, intensifying supply issues in deserts or drought-ridden areas. What's more, harmful chemicals that keep lawns green and free of pests, as well as a zero-tolerance policy for weeds, make for a lack of biodiversity. However, the urgency of climate change is now giving homeowners further cause to take a second look at their lawns.
Okay, as promised, we're going to talk about lawns in today's program. Again, that's an area of grass around one's home. If you have a home that has a yard, you can have a lawn as well. But this title here is suggesting that we move on from the culture of lawns. And I've heard about this before. There are pros and cons of lawns, which we'll discuss as our lesson continues. So let's get into it now. The first paragraph says, "Keep off the grass." Signs like this are often seen in places with meticulously manicured lawns. Indeed, it is true. Sometimes people don't want you to walk on their lawns because you'll ruin the grass. So you'll often see a sign that says, keep off the grass. I remember seeing those signs on college campuses. They don't want the students taking shortcuts between buildings.
Or museums.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Various places, they just don't want you to walk on the grass because if too many people walk on the grass, you'll kill the grass and there'll be a path there, and they don't want that. They want the grass to grow freely. And yeah, you see those signs in places that have meticulously manicured lawns. Now, if something's meticulous, it's extremely careful. It pays a lot of attention to detail. You might have meticulous workers in your company. They pay attention to details. And manicured, well, we usually use this word to describe taking care of our hands. You can go to a specialist and they can trim your fingernails and work on your hands' skin and stuff like that to make your hands really, really nice. But we also use this word to talk about trimming something really short like grass on a lawn.
They're usually in public areas where they're paying a lot of money to keep that lawn looking beautiful. Maybe it's in a park and they don't want you walking across in the middle of the lawn when there's a pathway that they've already made for people. You'll see those there. I wanted to mention we use manicure to talk about our hands, but if you're talking about your feet, ladies, and I guess guys, if you want a pedicure, those are called pedicures. For your hands, we call them manicures, and we use manicure as a verb. So you're actually kind of grooming your lawn as we use this manicured lawns. Now, take a moment to contemplate or think deeply about what this means. Well, it means expanses or large areas of green carpet. That's kind of what it looks like when it's been mowed pretty flat or low. That people can only stare at, cannot be enjoyed. You can't walk across the grass because it does, as Tom says, it ruins it. And it makes a big, ugly path through the grass. So you can see where people have not obeyed, and there's a path going across the middle of a lawn. Well, though not all lawns are off limits in this way, many homeowners do take pride in keeping theirs well maintained. It was true in my neighborhood growing up. I grew up in the same neighborhood my whole life. We lived in two different homes, but my first home, we didn't have much land, so our lawn was quite small. But we still took very good care of it. My mom took great pride in the lawn. She also felt like it was a way to teach her boys how to work hard. Because when my family and when I was growing up, you had to learn how to work. Doing your homework wasn't enough. You had to learn how to be a very good worker. So the girls, we had lots of household chores. And I did yard work too, Tom. But the boys mainly took care of taking care of the lawns and the yard.
Sounds like your lawn was quite large. I think it maybe took us about 15 or 20 minutes to mow the lawn or something like that. And during the summer, of course, you had to do that about once a week because grass grows fast. You don't have to do it during the winter, though. That's nice. Except during the winter, you have to shovel the sidewalks when it snows, and that can be a lot of work as well.
Well, sometimes in Arizona, where I'm from, we had winter lawns. And you would plant different types of grass. Yeah, okay. So sometimes it was year-round. It was a mess.
Interesting. Okay, but indeed, a lot of homeowners take pride in keeping their lawns well-maintained. It makes your house look nice. And if your lawn gets too weedy or something like that, people are going to go, ugh, they don't know how to take care of their lawns. They are low-class people. Yeah. We're not going to be friends with them. So, of course, you don't want to lose face. So, of course, you keep your lawn well-maintained. But how did perfect lawns become such a staple of modern outdoor spaces? A staple is just something that is common. We've talked about this word before. Staple is often used to describe food that is common in someone's diet. Rice is a staple of the diet here in Taiwan. Bread is a staple in Western countries, etc., etc. And yes, indeed, outdoor spaces seem to always need to have a lawn, whether it be museums or your big home or college campuses. They all need to have these wonderful lawns.
That is true. So moving on to paragraph 2, it says lawns first became popular with the aristocracy of Europe in the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages goes back to the 1400s, so this was a long time ago. Aristocracy refers to the highest class in certain societies of people. We don't have this in America, but let's take the UK, for example. They have kings and queens and dukes and duchesses and things like that. Those are people who are born into a family line where they are considered to be the upper class. And they're called royalty or the aristocracy. So they lawns, that is, became popular with them way back in the Middle Ages. They were meant to copy or imitate the romantic green fields and hills that people saw in paintings that painters created. And they wanted that in their own, in their own surroundings. They thought, oh, I don't want it just on my wall in a painting. I want that beautiful lawn to be outside where I can enjoy it. So that's where lawns first became popular.
Indeed, and maintaining lawns was much more time-intensive than it is now and required special tools or grazing animals. And we'll talk about some of these details in just a couple of seconds. But right now, we're going to take a break and listen to our Chinese teacher who's just come back from the lawn after mowing it.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是10月27号 Unit 15。Is it time to move on from the culture of lawns? 第一天的课程，我小时候在家里隔着大马路对面有一户人家，他们好像是开家具工厂的，而工厂旁边是住家别墅，前面有个庭院，院子里养了很多锦鲤，就是那里有个小池塘，里面有很多的锦鲤，周围还有青翠的草坪。我到现在想起来都还觉得印象非常深刻。我们今天文章的主题就是跟草坪有关系，看看草坪是什么时候流行起来的，维护草坪又要付出哪些代价。好，我们现在一起来看看学习重点。请同学看到第一段第一句 Keep off the grass 这里，同学是否看过这样子的标语？意思呢是要大家不要去践踏这个草坪。后面呢说到说像这样子的告示牌，其实呢常常在很多有草坪的地方都可以看得到。这些草坪怎么样呢？ They are meticulously manicured。一般而言，我们看到这个 manicure 是在修剪指甲的时候会看到。那如果你要去修剪草皮，把它修剪得很整齐，其实呢也可以用这个动词，那很小心翼翼所修剪出来的，所以我们副词用 meticulously。再来，请同学看到第二句 Take a moment to contemplate。请同学看到 to 后面的这个动词 contemplate， 其实就是 think about， 请大家想想的意思。再来，请看到第三句的 Though not all lawns are off limits。 Off limits 意思就是不能靠近的地方。那不是所有的草坪呢都不让人家上去踏的，但是有很多屋主，他们呢其实对于自己修剪得非常整齐的这些草坪，保养得很好的草坪呢，其实他们是相当自豪的。They do take pride in keeping theirs well maintained。 这里 maintained 指的就是他们把自己的草坪维护得很好。再来，请看第四句 Such a staple of modern outdoor spaces。 请同学注意，这里的 staple 并不是指主食哦，不像面啊、饭啊主食的意思。这里的 staple 它所指的其实就是一个主要的元素，草坪呢变成现代户外景观当中的一个主要元素 staple。再来，请同学看到第二段的第二句 They were meant to imitate。 这里的 they 指的就是前一句的 lawns， 这些草坪它到底刚开始是用来做什么的？ They were meant to 就是用意是什么？原来是要模仿画作里面的这些所看到很青翠的田野，还有呢这些山林。再来，请同学看到第三句，老师刚刚已经提过了，维护草坪动词我们用 maintain。 那基本上这是一件非常耗费时间的事 ，very time intensive.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our society unit. We're talking about lawns and the culture of lawns. Having grass in front of your home and behind your home. That would be a lawn. We have lawns in our parks here in Taiwan, which are quite lovely, I must say. And you have to mow them every once in a while. We call that piece of equipment a lawn mower. Makes a large, ugly sound. Some lawnmowers, if they're big enough, you can sit on them. We call those riding lawnmowers. Those are more fun, but you still have to do the tedious, tough work of edging or cutting the lawn right around the edge so it doesn't look messy, I would say. And that's what makes something look meticulous and manicured if you take enough time to take care of a lawn properly. We found out before we left that lawns first became popular with the aristocracy, the royalty of Europe in the Middle Ages. They wanted to have these beautiful lawns that copied or mimicked the romantic green fields and hills they could see in their paintings. They wanted these green carpets around their homes. But think about it. They didn't have the equipment that we have today. So how did they accomplish it? We're going to talk about that now. How it was more time intensive, meaning it took a lot of time. If you have a job and you say it's very time intensive, it means before you even finish one piece of work, it just takes a long time. You have to be patient. So this was time intensive for them to have lawns, and they required special tools or grazing animals.
Grazing, yeah, to graze just means of animals to walk over grass and eat it as they go. So they would have cattle out there probably or whatever kind of animal.
Probably sheep, yeah.
Possibly, and they would just eat the grass and keep it nice and trim. They probably did not have lawnmowers back in those days. When I was mowing my grandmother's lawn, of course, she had a nice power lawnmower that had front-wheel drive. But in her barn, she had an old lawnmower that had the little blades that would spin inside. That was a really old one, but it was really difficult to push because it was not powered.
Hand-powered. I think we call them hand-powered
Yeah, I don't
mowers.
remember what they were called.
Those are hard.
Yeah, they did not use motors at all.
Yeah.
You just pushed them over the grass.
Had to use your muscles.
Yeah, and they spun the blades in circles and cut the grass that way. I would have liked to have tried that, but I think it requires a lot of work.
I've tried one. It's hard.
Okay, it must be. And, of course, the invention of lawnmowers and water management systems in the 19th century made lawn ownership more broadly accessible. So that, of course, is the machine we use nowadays to cut the grass. It's a lawn mower, and we've also got water management systems. So you've got sprinklers out there on your lawns that go off and water your grass every other day or something like that. So you really don't need to do much except go out there and mow the grass, or maybe you can have your servant do it for you.
Yeah, I need a servant like that you're talking about. Now, we had middle-class families who then, as time went by, were able to spread out into the suburbs, and they wanted a lawn for their kids. It's a place for kids to play on. There weren't a lot of parks in the suburbs. You'd have to have your own piece of ground or land that you could plant a lawn on if you wanted to have your kids play. So lawns have since proliferated, which means to increase rapidly. They've expanded around the world. And today, more space in the U.S. is dedicated to lawns than to crop farming. We've kind of outsourced our farming industry, which is not a good thing these days because now with food shortages, we want to have more crops being grown in our own country to take care of our needs, to feed people. So, yeah, we got to the point, I think people had so much money and free time. They thought, oh, forget the farm. Let's have a beautiful lawn so it looks pretty and we look like we have lots of free time just to play around in it.
Yeah, it says here, today more space in the U.S. is dedicated to lawns than to crop farming, and lawns make up an estimated 23% of urban land on Earth. Not so much in the country, though. I'm from the country. There are a lot more corn fields out there than grass lawns in the small towns.
Which is a waste of time, I guess, for farmers.
Yeah, but in the cities, of course, you've got lots of lawns. And this culture of lawn ownership has created a number of social and environmental problems, though. So now we're talking about the downsides of lawns. For one thing, homeowners in well-to-do neighborhoods are often pressured by their communities or even required by law to maintain a law regardless of their wishes. So indeed, it is kind of a status symbol to have a nice lawn, especially if you are well-to-do. Well-to-do just means you're wealthy, you've got a lot of money, and if you live in those nice neighborhoods, well, you're going to be pressured by your neighbors and by your communities to have a really nice lawn. And you might even be required to do so by law. So you can't get lazy and let dandelions and other kinds of weeds start to proliferate in your lawns, or you could get in big trouble.
Oh, dandelions. I could talk about weeds for a whole hour with you, Tom. Yeah, we had to pull out a lot of weeds growing up in my family. So yeah, sometimes you were even required by law if you lived in certain communities to maintain or take care of a lawn. Regardless of your own wishes. Maybe you just wanted a rock yard. I hated those in Arizona because it felt hot just looking at them. But, some people didn't want to be bothered with taking care of their lawn. So if they don't, it says here both their and their neighbor's property values may diminish. You have to keep your neighborhood looking good because it affects how much your neighbor can actually charge for their home if they want to sell their home one day. So yeah, we're all in this together. You need to make your house and your yard look good. So that your property values don't diminish. For another, here's another problem. Lawn maintenance makes enormous demands on water resources. You need a lot of water to take care of it. And that is intensifying supply issues in deserts. I grew up in a desert. Or drought-ridden areas. Drought just means when you don't have enough water supply. We had a drought last year because we had no typhoons come through. And it really did make a difference. I miss the typhoons, Tom. I'll be honest. Now, if you put a ridden behind drought, you're saying it's like it's everywhere. It's covered. We would say sometimes, oh, my jeans are hole-ridden. They have lots of holes in them. Or disease-ridden. Maybe you find a stray dog and he's got lots of, he's just sick and he looks sick. He's disease-ridden. So if it's drought-ridden, it had a lot of areas that were experiencing drought. So if you have a beautiful lawn, this can make those, supply issues even worse. To intensify just means to make more and more intense. You increase something, and it's usually used in a negative way.
Yeah, so if you have relatives who live in California, say in Monterey Park or Cupertino or someplace like that, and you've got a big house and you want to show off your lawn, well, it's going to be a problem there because California's got droughts going on quite frequently, so you're using your water to make your grass look nice. Some people are going to be kind of upset about that. And what's more, harmful chemicals that keep lawns green and free of pests, as well as a zero-tolerance policy for weeds, make for a lack of biodiversity. So yeah, if you want to keep your lawn green, you have to use lots of chemicals like fertilizer and stuff like that. And you don't want those pests in there either. You don't want snakes and bugs and things like that. And you don't want the weeds either. You've got this zero tolerance policy. Zero tolerance just means you're not going to tolerate it at all. You're just not going to accept it. No way. I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to have weeds in my lawn.
Right. So this makes for a lack of biodiversity, different types of plants and animals in that particular lawn area we're talking about. However, it says the urgency of climate change is now giving homeowners further cause or another reason to take a second look at their lawns. If you're talking about the urgency of something, it means something needs or requires immediate action or attention. Sometimes you'll get phone calls and you can hear on the call that someone really has a lot of urgency in their voices. It's an urgent matter. You need to act now, no delay. So if somebody shows urgency, pay attention. They may need help right away.
Indeed, and they're taking a look at their lawns again. And this reminds me of my brother-in-law in California. He actually lets all the weeds in his backyard grow. And he's got some trees that bear fruit there, and we go there and have those fruit every so often when we go to visit. So he's kind of against lawns, and he's actually from Taiwan here. So I guess this lawn culture may change someday. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
我们再接着看第二段的第四句哦。第四句就是后来发明了割草机。然后呢，还有一些洒水的设备，所以在19世纪的时候，如果家里想要有个草坪 lawn ownership 指的就是在家中呢拥有草坪这件事情，其实就不是那么的困难，变得也比较普及了。好，再来第5句这边，那还有另外一个现象也促成了草坪越来越多，是什么呢？就是中产阶级的家庭搬到郊区去了。They spread out into suburbs. 那在这之后呢 lawns have since 就从那个时候开始 lawns have since proliferated around the world. 在全球各地呢都快速的看到会有很多越来越多的草坪 proliferated. 那到底有多少呢？那我们知道说在美国原来很多的土地其实是用来呢种草坪，而不是用来种植农作物的。They make up an estimated 23% of urban land. 而且在都市的土地有 23% 都是草坪。从第二段我们了解到养草坪是如何成为一股风潮，第3段就开始叙述草坪衍生的相关问题了。再来，在这一段呢，要请同学特别注意到几个 signpost， 就是重要的标记，让我们知道呢，这个读者知道作者他的论点一点一点的列出来，包括呢从第2句的 for one thing， 还有第4句的 for another， 再来呢就是第5句的 what's more， 其实都是让我们知道到底草坪会有哪些问题。首先第一个问题呢，就是在一些比较有钱的住宅区 well-to-do neighborhoods， 在这些地方怎么样呢？有些人他们是感受到邻居的压力 they're pressured by their communities。 好，再来请同学看到第4句这里，请同学特别注意到的就是其实要养草坪是对于水资源来说是相当耗费的。Lawn maintenance makes enormous demands on water resources， 意思就是很耗费水资源，特别是在哪些地区drought-ridden areas， 请同学特别注意这个复合形容词，它所指的就是有些区域是干旱盛行的地方。再来第5句，请同学特别注意到一个动词片语，就是在最后那个逗点之后的 make for， 这里呢可以解释为促成的意思，就是因为要养草坪，所以会用农药。那用了农药，再加上呢有很多人对于野草、杂草是零容忍的，这些都造成生物多样性缺乏。好，以上就是我们针对第1篇文章所做的中文讲解，谢谢大家。
That's it, guys. We're not done talking about lawns, though. We have another day to talk about the culture of lawns. We hope you'll join us then. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
See ya.